Hello, and welcome to Sandy on Talent. Really excited today to have with me someone I know as Rux. And her name is a brand in and of itself. And I had actually learned about you, Rux, before I met you, because your reputation kind of comes ahead of you like a wave in a very good way. And as you know, we met when you were working at McKinsey, and I was in a partnership with McKinsey, and we had a chance to do some fun stuff together. But I see that your life has kind of moved on from there, and so we've got some fun stuff to talk about. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to introduce you to all of all the people who are listening, because you have a very fascinating background. And so I'm formally kind of introducing Ruxandra Tentis, a seasoned executive, entrepreneur, and former McKinsey partner with more than 20 years of experience in financial services, technology, and private equity. She's currently the co-founder and CEO of two ventures. One, Solart, a solar tech company, and YELO, which develops AI-driven tools for mid-sized businesses. Fascinating. Anxious to hear more. Before entering the startup world, Rux spent nearly 2 decades at McKinsey and Company. There, she helped build the firm's private equity practice and led major projects in strategy, operating models, value creation, especially in financial services. Her insights have also been featured in McKinsey publications, particularly around private markets and insurance. She holds an MBA from MIT Sloan and a Bachelor of Science degree in economics from LSU. On top of that, she serves on the board of the Arts and Business Council for Greater Boston, where she's helping bridge the worlds of business and the arts. I'm so excited for this conversation because of this rare combination that Rux brings to strategic depth and entrepreneurial energy, which is a kind of a different slant on many of the people who have been on the show before. So Rux, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Sandy, for having me. I'm very excited about our conversation.
Yeah. And, I always like to start, it's one thing for someone to hear the introduction of you, but it's a whole other thing to hear your story in your words. And so, I'd really like to hear about the journey, because you're such a unique and fun, interesting, provocative person. I'd like to hear the story. How does someone become Rux? How does that happen? So start wherever you like in your lifeline, but tell us your story.
First of all, Sandy, just based on your intro, I want to say it was such a pleasure working together. And in the spirit of confidentiality, I was going to use a quote from Ocean's 11. Thank you for the guy and the place and the thing. But it was really, really fun working with you. So my journey, at a high level, it does feel that I have had at least 2 to 3 lives that are very different, and that in some sense, I traveled in time. And for context, I was born in the mid-70s in communist Romania. My whole childhood was basically under the system until the revolution in '89. I ended up getting a scholarship when I was in high school from the George Soros Foundation. So, Mr. Soros, I always wanted to say thank you for changing my life. The foundation was called Open Door Foundation, and the objective was to train as many people in Eastern Europe into, what democracy looks like.
What was the catalyst that made you want to pivot into starting a couple of companies?
Well, one more thing I will mention about the firm. I had incredible mentors, and I had, people around me that actually saw the opportunity in private equity, and included me into that vision and drive and training. And you're right, 10, 15 years ago, I think consulting companies didn't even have a private equity sector or group of folks, right? So it's been, we saw the wave at the right time. What was the catalyst or the trigger for me to say, okay, time to do something else? It was really threefold. COVID was a very, very difficult time, I think, for most moms, let alone for moms that have a career, at that intensity. And my kids were also, turning 10, 11, 12, tweens, more challenging. I felt that they needed me more physically now than before. And I also started spending time with them on passions and hobbies that we had together. So for example, my son, who's the 14 and a half right now, when he turned 10, he got really excited about learning to fly. So Stefan and I started doing that together. He's now, ready to get his license. I didn't take as many lessons as I wanted, but it's something he and I do together.
Ready to fly airplanes?
Yes. Yeah.
There are a number of people that I sort of interact with who would say, gosh, someone who's been 20 years a consultant, can they actually run one of these things?
So fair.
And
So fair.
and of course there are many, many, many McKinsey alums who are running all shapes and sizes of business and entrepreneur and all of that stuff. How are you finding the transition from being a professional consultant for 2 decades? I mean, that's no joke. And you got really good at it. And
Thank
now
you.
being an entrepreneur, what are the differences between those two? And and actually being able to deliver the software and so on and work with the customers and satisfy. I mean, client stuff would seem pretty natural for you, but tell me.
Very good question, Sandy, and spot on. It's very different. So I would say that the first observation I had was that I became incredibly vertically integrated. So whether it was a CEO role or I had to deal with accounting or I had to deal with recruiting, I would have to do all of those things at one time, right? As the team grew, and we put people in place, the challenge again, and this is what makes me think of you often, the challenge is in people and training them and positioning them for success. At the firm, I was surrounded by people who were incredibly well trained by the time they came to work with me. I would give them a look to many of them, and they would know what to do. So it really was a very different and skill set, and much more of an alignment of skill set than I am having with the software developers. Right? It's a very different world. They operate very differently than I did, and so that was another learning curve. Right? Like they started working with us, and they said, no, we have to use this software and that software and the other one. This is how we track our work, and this is what we do. And I have never had to do that. And I indulged them to a point where I'm like, listen, I don't know if I want to learn another software, but in the IT world, that's how it works. So we had to align on that. And I think, but a good piece of advice that, my husband always gives me, he's the CEO of private equity owned companies. He's run a few. He said, listen, your bar is so high. And yes, you're right. A lot of the folks are not doing their job rightly. But if I listen to you, you would end up firing everyone and doing all the work yourself. So you cannot be that person.